the product rule. So the product rule, if you keep in mind, product means multiplication. And the product rule means we're going to take the same base, so x to some power times x to another power, which is going to give us x to the power of a plus b. So if you have the same base, and it has to be the same base, and you are multiplying them together, then you simply add the exponents. The quotient rule, so quotient means divide, says we're going to take x to the power of a divided by x to the power of b, which is going to give us x to the power of a minus b. So when you're dividing, you subtract. When you're multiplying, you add. Example 2, simplify each expression. So letter A, we have x squared times x to the third. This is the product rule, so that's going to be x to the power of 2 plus 3, which is x to the fifth. Now, the long way of thinking about that would be like saying x squared is really x times x. There's two of them. Then you're multiplying that by x to the third, which is 1, 2, 3. Ultimately, when you do that, you now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 x's, which is what gets you x to the fifth. Letter B, kind of the same idea here, except now we're adding in coefficients. When you add in coefficients, multiplication, you can maneuver it around. It's commutative. So we're going to take the 2 times the 6, and we're going to get 12. Then we're going to pull off of there the x to the fifth and the x, which is your product rule. And keep in mind this has a 1 on it, so that is going to be x to the sixth. Then we're going to put everything back together, and it's all multiplication, so 12x to the sixth. Letter C, now we're dividing, so this is our quotient rule. So what we're going to do here is this is going to be x to the power of 5 minus 2, which is x to the power of 3. Now, the long way of thinking about this one is saying, okay, I have x to the fifth. Well, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over x squared, x. Then we can cancel and say, well, this guy cancels this guy cancels this guy, which leaves me with x to the third. Letter D, kind of the same thing, but notice now we're flipped. So if we think about this, this is x to the power of 2 minus 5. So this time we're actually going to get x to the negative 3. And a negative exponent means take the reciprocal. So we're going to put it under 1 and then make it positive. The long way of thinking about this is in your numerator you have 2 x's. In your denominator, you have 5. If we cancel, those are going to cancel, those are going to cancel, and this time you still have 3 x's, but they're on the bottom. So this time, because there's nothing in the top, you need a placeholder of 1, and you get 1 over x cubed. Letter E. So letter E, we have a lot going on. The first thing I'm going to consider is I'm going to consider this 8 and I'm going to consider this 16. If I'm dealing with 8 over 16, that's just a normal fraction, and we could simplify that by 8, which is 1/2. So I know part of my answer is going to be 1 over 2. Now, the next part of my answer is going to deal with this m cubed and m to the sixth. So let's think about that. M cubed over m to the sixth. However you want to think about it, it's the quotient rule. So we're really doing m to the third minus 6, which is m to the negative 3. Now, if it's a negative, that tells you to do the reciprocal. So it's really 1 over m to the third, which means when I bring it back up here to put it in my answer, I already have a 1 in the numerator, so I would just need my m cubed. So ultimately, if we're going to make that look pretty, 1 over 2m cubed.